from that point of view, that's a personal judgment call. If it was a financial decision, but it's about getting your big rocks in the jar, then I always want your big rocks in the jar. And if this is a short-term thing, I've always said rent vesting is not a long-term strategy if you ultimately want to get into a dream home. You're better off sort of buying an entry-level home owner-occupied first and then stepping up than potentially rent vesting. Rent vesting for me is you're always going to rent and you're just going to build a portfolio of assets around you. So you've got flexibility, but you don't necessarily have property that you own.
An important point on reinvesting too, Ben, isn't it? You've got to stay the course, because if you pivot midstream, it
don't work.
It blows it out for cost.
Yep.
Last thing for that, Kieren, for me is if cash flow is okay for you because you want to put the big rock in the jar and you've saved a bit of money because you've been in one of your rental properties for the last 12 months, just be mindful not to make 15, 20-year decisions based on 6 weeks of information. So if there's an opportunity for you to be job secure, cash flow is okay, and you can buy into these markets that it's going to be a 15, 20-year decision, well, it sounds like the big rock in the jar is important to you, right? So sometimes you can't measure that from a financial perspective, and now might be a good opportunity for you to get in.
And think 20, 30, 40 years from now, Bryce, those acreage properties usually then get sliced and diced up as population and urban sprawl continue. And if they don't get carved up, then they become very, very scarce assets, and they usually do very well. So if you're buying the standard block in the standard estate, then there's not really much. You're just going to get what we call sort of rising tide valuations on your land. But if you've got a scarce block or a unique block or a block that's got city views that can't be built out, that's that scarcity element. And it's historically larger blocks in the outer suburbs on acreage are of high demand short and medium term, because the successful tradie who wants to store his boats and his toys and all of that, he will go out there and he's well cashed up. And so there is competition on those assets over time. But if you're talking about just going wide just to get a standard block in a standard estate, and there's heaps of acreage blocks or whatever, like there's hundreds and hundreds of them, no scarcity there. You're talking about, 40, 50 of those acreage blocks surrounded by your standard subdivision blocks. Those properties will be prized assets over time.
I find it interesting, a lot of money in Brisbane. I'm not pretending that I know all the acreage blocks in Brisbane super acutely, but in Brisbane, Ben, you've got Ascot and Hamilton and Bulimba, but you don't really have the Turaks of the world in Brisbane, because it's if you go into Ascot, you can still get a one-bedroom flat there, but you can also get these amazing, beautiful homes in Hamilton's the same, right? So a lot of money in Brisbane tends to go that little bit further out, so they can get the extra space and have these acreages. So I think there's always strong demand for that, given that it does offer something unique for that particular city. COVID has shown up an interesting thing too, because those lifestyle type of properties have become more and more popular. But even in Queensland, the very northern tip of Sunshine Coast, the very southern tip of the Gold Coast, I was chatting to one of the agents in my area, Ben. I live on the Surf Coast. I said, "How's it all going? I noticed you've got a few listings. Are you flying along?" She goes, "We are flying along." She said the amount of people that are coming down from Melbourne saying that we were going to make a move in 5 to 10 years, and it's just incentivized us to actually just do it now. She said, so one person drove down once, had a look at the school, the actual school that my kids go to, which is a really nice school. And they go, we want to put the kids in that school, so therefore we'll go and find a property. Let's get it done. The decision was made, like it sounds like a lifetime dream was made in a very short period of time. Yep. So those things are happening all over the country. I think about back home in Perth, Mandurah is probably more appealing than ever, given that was just fringe commutable. There's a train though that goes down there, but even if you go down to Bunbury or some Dunsborough and some of these great places, you know Rockingham very well, Ben, Christie's Beach, Port Noarlunga in Adelaide, Surf Coast here, even into some of the Yarra Valley towards Healesville, all those sorts of things that were where people go, maybe I'll do that when I retire. Whereas now they're going, you know what? I think I've got a pretty good chance to negotiate 2 or 3 days working from home, because we just proved that it works. So therefore, where Kieren's looking to purchase, it's still well and truly commutable to Brisbane. So those sorts of lifestyle assets will continue to be in demand anyway.